The Hummer EV pickup has been criticized for a lot of things. It's big, it's heavy, it's inefficient, but nobody can argue that it's in your face and it's a bit wild, just sort of like the original one. Now we have the 2024 SUV version, which is promised to be just as capable off-road, just as in your face, but with a shorter wheelbase and a little bit lighter of a battery pack. How does this SUV perform against both the truck and other vehicles in its competition? Stick around to find out.
The Hummer EV SUV will be rolling out in stages depending on the trim level. The Edition 1 that we're driving today is already sold out. Womp womp. It also carried a starting price of $105,595 with delivery and has 830 horsepower. By the spring of 2024, you should be able to get a version of this truck with a smaller battery pack and dual motors, with up to 625 horsepower in the roughly $80,000 price range.
So if you thought to yourself, does the Hummer EV SUV drive just like the Hummer EV pickup truck? You would be correct. They're similar in a lot of ways. This is a shorter wheelbase, so from a technical perspective, there are 4 less battery module packs in the Ultium system, which actually caps charging 300 kilowatts instead of 350. And they're anticipating around 300 miles of range. The SUV should be a little bit lighter, sort of as a result, but GM hasn't given us a weight number either. We should just drive to a scale and see what it is, but then GM would be like, where's my car? And they'd send the police, and it would be a problem. So a couple of cool things, though, about having the shorter wheelbase is the turning circle is even better with the 4-wheel steering. The rear wheels will turn up to 10 degrees, either in phase or out of phase of the front wheels, depending on what you're trying to do, which of course allows for the CrabWalk feature that I'm sure that you've seen. But this actually decreases the turning circle to that of like a Chevy Spark. Basically, it is smaller and tighter than on the truck. So if you are off-roading, you'll definitely appreciate that. If you're just trying to drive in downtown San Francisco, you'll also appreciate that. One other thing you'll really appreciate over the truck, and I know this is a little thing, but it's really a big deal for me, is because this truck isn't as heavy as the pickup, you actually get a curved right mirror. So FMVSS requires a 10,000 pound GCWR vehicle to have a flat passenger mirror. It's law. This truck is lighter. We don't know how much, but we can assume a little bit because it's no longer in that sort of class 3 that the truck is in. So you get real mirrors, and it's amazing. It is just as quick as you expect. We're in a 3-motor version. It's the same. But what I think it really does improve on is they've had some time to fix and massage and make perhaps subtle changes from the truck to the SUV. Now they'll tell you that everything from the C-pillar forward is the same, and they're probably right, but they've definitely made some effort to improve the sound isolation from the roof panels. There's less wind noise at speeds that you shouldn't be driving than there is in the truck. It just feels a lot more refined in here. Material quality is the same, like there's nothing new there, but it just feels like a nicer truck to drive. It's also just a lot quieter in general. Now, there's a couple things you can attribute to that. The Edition 1 Hummer pickup truck came standard with the Extreme Off-Road package. That Extreme Off-Road package gave you mud terrain tires. Mud terrain tires are loud. That's sort of the trade-off for the capability. The truck that we're in right now, the SUV that we're in right now, is the street-focused Edition 1 without the Extreme Off-Road pack. So we have all-terrain tires instead of mud-terrain tires. It's much quieter in here. And also, probably, we don't have a real confirmation from GM, but because there's no mid-gate separating the bed from the back of the truck, it's probably a little bit better with sound isolation there as well. So maybe it's a bit of a extreme to say that this truck is the Mercedes quiet equivalent in the Hummer lineup. That's probably a bit much, but it's much easier to hold a conversation. And while I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, I wouldn't be surprised if the SUV is 10 decibels quieter at highway speed than the truck. The truck was really pretty loud. So Everything else that you expect from the Hummer is here. The NVIDIA graphic stuff, the Unreal Engine, it's all just here. It's all moon focused. A drive partner mentioned earlier today that like wasn't the Volt supposed to be the moon shot, so why is this a moon shot? Whatever. GM likes calling everything moon shots. What's cool about this is it really does feel like a much more refined version of what they were shooting for. And since most people aren't going to be extreme off-roading, even though the vehicle is more than capable of doing that, it's much more livable, I think, as a daily driver. The biggest drawback is just how wide it is. It is still a genuinely wide vehicle. It's a very big vehicle. You sit higher than you do in most other vehicles on the road. And if you're crossing something like, I don't know, the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's traffic next to you, and you're going the opposite way of rush hour, like the lanes are extremely narrow, and it can be a bit nerve-wracking. So you need to know that going into it. This is a very big vehicle, but I don't think you buy it expecting it to be small. Where it surprises, where it shocks, where it really impresses is how maneuverable it is for how big it is. The shorter wheelbase of the SUV combined with the rear wheel steering and sort of the clever smarts that go into the off-road modes, specifically the terrain mode, it makes this thing extremely agile and extremely maneuverable on-road and off-road in the on-road context of normal driving. It's not a sports car, it's heavy, its tires aren't designed for that. So when I talk about agility, I'm talking more of like maneuverability or agility on an off-road course. You could go to Moab and this truck would probably impress quite a bit. One other thing worth mentioning, if you do go to Moab, the 3-motor version has, of course, 2 motors in the rear. It uses a software-based differential. Basically, the computer controls motor output to lock the wheels. On a 2-motor version, there's actually a traditional axle in the rear with a mechanical locker. In either case, though, because you're in the SUV with the shorter wheelbase, you get better approach and departure angles than the truck. You get a better breakover angle, and you can pop the rear spare tire off to improve that a bit more. But also, you get a spare tire, which is fantastic, and it's in an easily accessible place. So, if you want the truck's cool. If you want nearly that same cool factor in a much more livable package and probably a little bit more capable off-road, SUV is the one to get. The 2024 GMC Hummer EV SUV is a significantly better performer than the pickup truck. It feels nicer inside because it's quieter, there's less NVH, so it's more comfortable on long trips. The suspension's a little bit softer, and ultimately it's just a better, well-rounded family vehicle. But it's just as extreme and just as crazy and just as brazen as the pickup truck. Now that you've seen our first drive of the SUV, check out our full review of the EV pickup truck version of the Hummer by clicking right here.